This is a ManeHustle Media podcast.
It sounds like one of the names they would have for a monarch. It's like Queen Javia the First, Black Radical Queer, among queer Negro women.
All the way from the A, you listen to my favorite lesbian on BRQ.
I'm on my black girl magic voodoo shit, with the bamboo earrings on some new shit. I'm new when this money asking who this bitch. I'm the bitch with the pussy with the judo grip.
Hey y'all, this is Javia Nicole, aka your favorite lesbian, and you're listening to Black Radical Queer Podcast, our stories on our own terms. So, hi everyone, this is Javia Nicole. Welcome back to Black Radical Queer Podcast. I know it has been a while. I'm returning from a brief hiatus, but I felt like what better way to return than to feature a couple of my favorite YouTubers on BRQ. There are a couple that I would like for you all to get to know and to check out their channel and just to see what type of people they are, because that's important to me. Y'all know, my listeners know I'm about energy and that kind of stuff. So I felt like they would be a good couple to bring to you guys. So as usual, I'm going to allow my guests to introduce themselves and then we will get into our conversation.
Hey y'all, it's Megan
and Mason
with Inside the Life of M&amp. Hey y'all!
What's happening? Y'all all right? Yo, we are so excited to be on with you today, and we look forward to this interview, man.
Yes, this is our first podcast, so we are super excited.
I'm glad that I could be the first. So yeah, I definitely, I may have mentioned this on another episode, but, actually I know I did. So my listeners know that I am a YouTube, I watch YouTube. Me and my wife have done some YouTube videos, but we have kind of fallen off with our channel.
Easy to do.
It's all good.
We've fallen off a little bit, but I still do watch a few couples on YouTube just because, as I've told my listeners, that's my reality TV. When I want to see myself reflected in some sort of media with some people who look like me, who love like me, who are just kind of living their regular lives, that's what I go to. And YouTube has been a great resource for that. And so Inside the Life of M&amp is one of the couples that I subscribe to and that I watch regularly. For one, because I was just talking to them about this before we started recording, but it's not, they don't perform for YouTube. So they don't do we're about to do this specific thing just to get these views. It really is a glimpse inside their life. So I enjoy that. And I like people who are positive and who you got to pretend like everything's all good all the time, but just good energy, that kind of thing. So that's what drew me to watching their channel. They're both funny. So that definitely, and then there's some conversations that you all have that really remind me of conversations that my wife and I have. And I had her on the podcast for the first time recently, a hot mess. So that I was laughing so much. I was like, oh, now my listeners are going to hear me being mushy. But
you got to give it to them time.
But it was nice. And I just like being able to kind of get that glimpse and see that, hey, we're not the only people who do this or who talk about this or, kind of things are important too. So I want to give you all the opportunity to first just tell my listeners about yourselves individually and then to give us some insight about just your channel and kind of how you got into doing the YouTube channel.
Okay, perfect. So this is Megan. I am from Birmingham, Alabama. Roll Tide. Throw that in there. I have been in Atlanta now for 6 years, I think, and I absolutely love it. So my reason for kind of moving here was I needed a change of scenery. Being from Birmingham and being a Black lesbian, it's not the best environment, to say the least, to be yourself. So I came here 6 years ago, found the love of my life.
Oh, yeah, you did.
3 years ago, and I just couldn't look back.
You just sound super duper country.
I know.
That accent came out real strong.
I know. I have to give it to the people sometimes, But I'm currently a flight attendant with Delta. And I absolutely love my job, my career, so to speak. And I'm the only child, and I love to eat.
Yes.
Yeah.
All facts.
Yeah.
I'm like, facts. I recall this.
Oh,
lots of food adventures, Lots of food adventures on the channel.
Yes. And this is Mason. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, by way of LA. Now, obviously, residing in Atlanta for the past 5 years, where I just so happened to find the love of my life via Plenty of Fish.
Come on, Plenty of Fish.
I also the airport, but ironically, like I said, that's not how we met. So, yeah, man, I love Atlanta. I love my 2 dogs.
Y'all, she love these 2 dogs.
I do.
Okay.
I do. I'm actually I'm petting one right now.
Don't do her. Don't do her about the dog.
Okay.
Dog life. We about the dog life.
Get married. Okay, we are about that dog life. Will y'all tell her, please? Yes.
I am like the only lesbian I know who is not about that dog life.
Like, really. Like, she does not do animals, period.
Gotta reevaluate that.
Okay. I almost called the wedding off, honestly. I let it go ahead because I bought the ring, but yeah. But our channel basically is just as you said, it's just a glimpse into our lives, our real life. We don't put on for our channel, which kind of makes it a little difficult, like with our work schedule, which kind of makes it difficult to record because really, I mean, we do so much and it's like to record every single thing we do, just living our daily lives because it is just that, it makes it difficult, but it's fun. We got into it because some of our friends who are YouTubers convinced Megan to do it.
You should just do it, Megan. And I was so nervous. But I think for us, the biggest thing too is hitting on topics that affect us.
Absolutely.
The same topics that affect everyone. But for some reason, people think that we don't go through those same things being a lesbian couple. So for us, talking about finances, talking about going to therapy, things like that, those are all things that are very important in our community as well.
Absolutely.
I think it's important too because like you just touched on about these are things that impact everybody, but for some reason people don't think they impact us. I think part of that, which is part of why I started the podcast, because just because of how our relationship setups may look or whatever, doesn't mean that they're not still regular relationships. So I think that it's important for us to have this representation. People have a certain idea in their mind when they think of what is normal. So I think it's important to normalize all types of relationships because we're all out here living our regular ass lives. The same issues. And so I think it's really important to do that. And for me, I really wanted other Black queer people to have that reflected in multiple ways. So I think that following people on YouTube has been one of the ways for me that I've been able to see that reflected. And then having the podcast is a way that people are able to have that reflected too in some other form of media because I have people on and they tell their stories. But the response that I've gotten, I've seen, even though it's 2018, is still something that is very much needed and that is very much lacking. I feel like I follow quite a few queer couples on YouTube, but in a grand scheme of YouTube, it's still a niche type of area. It's still not a lot. So I just think that it's important for that representation to keep increasing. And so that's definitely one of the reasons why I wanted to have you all on the podcast too, so that it's another form of media, for you all to be able to just share yourselves, share your lives, give a glimpse into your life with the world and with people who really, who it'll resonate with. So I think that's really important. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you all is you just got married. So congrats.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It was so dope. And I was like, look at them. They're at the school I graduated from undergrad. So that was.
Did you really?
Oh, nice.
I went to Agnes Scott.
Oh, that's so dope. Yo, that campus is so
beautiful.
Oh my God. Like
I took so many pictures on that camp. Like I was doing photography. I did so many shoots. I would have everybody come to campus like, where you want to shoot? Okay, look, we're going to shoot on campus.
Exactly.
Because it was so gorgeous. But I saw the pictures and everything. And I mean, I just got married this year too. So
congrats to you.
Thank you. So it's still in that, kind of newlywed phase, but also there are things that you establish beforehand. So you kind of have that mixture of the established relationship versus the newlywed kind of energy. So what has it been like for you all so far, just kind of going through the wedding process and finally getting through it and going on a honeymoon. Like, how are you all feeling?
Let me tell you, let me say for myself, I am so glad that wedding planning is over. Oh my God. And not that I did much except show up and I assisted. It was so stressful. And I think that it did cause certain strains in our relationship because me and Mason are best friends, period. Like, that's our thing. But when you add in all these other elements into your relationships that you're not used to, it's just like, oh my goodness, what is happening? So for me, it being over, even though it was amazing, I'm happy that it's over.
I mean, y'all had to taste a lot of cake, so that can weigh on a person.
And we thank God for that cake taste.
Yeah, that cake tasting was everything.
That was the light. That was the light.
Yeah, that was it. You know what? I was a lot more involved in the wedding planning process that I thought I was gonna be. I turned into a real broomzilla. I kind of took on.
Speak on that, because that's what happened with my wife. So
in the very beginning, being the masculine centered one in the relationship, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just say yes and give the okay. If Megan loves it, then likes it, I love it, whatever. I'm not gonna be involved. And the total opposite happened.
I'm telling you.
I had to know every detail. Like, I was involved in every. I think the only thing was just picking her dress.
That was all it was. And she was still trying to have some say so in there.
No, I did not.
You was trying to ask questions about that dress now.
I did ask questions. I was not. Megan restricted me on.
You got to have your hand in a little bit of everything.
Yes. And it was stressful, but I'm one of those type of people, like, I like to do things myself. So although it was stressful, I kind of enjoyed it. And even once the wedding was over, I was like, now what am I going to do with myself? Like, I'm not going to have tasks to do every day while I'm supposed to be working. Like, this is like,
right. I don't have the legitimate distraction anymore.
Right. Right. Like, I really got to work while I'm at work. But it was, it is good that, it's over and we can get back to our regular lives because, like Megan said, I mean, it was a period of time where it's just like, hey, what you want for dinner? What you mean what I want for? It's like, whoa, like, geez. Just asking.
And, and let me say, too, while we were planning, we went, we did premarital counseling the whole time, which I think was very beneficial because we were able to talk out some of those issues we were going through in the moment of planning. So I think that helped a lot. And since the honeymoon, which was great, things have just gotten back to normal, our normal. And we love that.
Yeah. And it's, you know what, we would ask people before we got married, like, so is it different being married? And they're like, yes. So we're like, so tell us how. And they're like, yo, we can't explain it. You just, like, once you get married, you're going to know, but you won't be able to explain it. And when people ask me, it's like, it's the same yet different, but different in a good way. It's like, wow, you wake up like, this is my wife. Like, this is great. This is like the thing that I dreamed and prayed for. Like, wow, this is for real. And it just seems so much sweeter than before. Not that it wasn't sweet then, but it's just, I guess now knowing that
I'm here forever.
It does add something. It adds something else to it. I do feel like because. And it was, I actually, initially when I was like reaching out to you all about being on the podcast, I wanted to have my wife on too at the same time, but she is out of town. But we did go through that process too of doing the planning and going through the stress. We ended up doing a destination wedding, which was like, it eliminated a lot of the stress. It made some stuff so much easier because it was just like kind of all in a package. So we had to kind of choose the specifics of our package. But once that thing was locked down, we're like, look, we about to go turn up in Mexico.
So nice.
So it was nice to be able to do that, but it was still hectic because we were still basically hosting people. It's like people are coming to us, and we had 28 people come to Mexico with us. So we're still kind of in hostess mode. And my wife did the same thing where everybody assumed because she is more masculine presenting and I'm more femme presenting, they assumed that I would be like the person who's like, I need stuff to be this way and that way. And she would be just like, whatever you want, and no, let's just say no. reality, people, as they get to know us, they see that I am definitely my wife is more masculine presenting, but energy wise, it's kind of like she has a little bit more like feminine energy and I have more masculine energy. So I'm the person who was like, all right, sweetie, if that's what you want. Okay. Because she was off the chain. It was hilarious. So she definitely was like involved in all that type of stuff. So it wasn't quite the way that people thought, but I will say after the fact, it was amazing. I definitely want to do another like group trip like that, minus the wedding part. So after, because she was like, let's do it again. I'm like, girl,
No.
let's chill. She was riding that high. Like she still says to this day, because we got married in May, she still says, let's do it again. I want to do it again. And I'm just like, she's like, including the wedding. And I'm just like, okay.
No,
but she want to do all that. Like because it really was amazing, but it is different. I asked people that same thing that people asked about, like, oh, is it, what's it like being married? Is it different? And everybody responded like what you said, like that same type of, oh, well, you just, and for me, I mean, me and my wife have been together almost 7 years. So it's like, it's not different. But it is, I guess. I think for me, the biggest difference was because we have been together so long, it did kind of having that newlywed energy and having that was a little different because we got into like our comfortable relationship energy and definitely not like a rut or anything, but that stability that to me, I love that it's no drama, that we're not, it's not volatile. Like I'm all for that, but it gave that new burst of like that. I didn't know if we would have the newlywed energy because we've been together so long, but we do. So to me, that's been very refreshing to be like, oh, I feel kind of like similar to what I did when we started dating, but also with a lot more grounded, a lot more stable, those kind of, which has been really enjoyable. Like, I love it. I love that I feel secure, but also like, hey, I'm excited to be with you, type of thing.
That's awesome.
Oh, I love that.
That is super awesome.
So I think that's so I know beforehand you all you kind of like established your home and that kind of thing. Do you feel like that helped in the process? Because a lot of people will wait until after they get married to try to like establish their home and do all that stuff. So do you think that it was beneficial that you kind of did that beforehand, or do you wish that you had done it after?
110% believe that us being established in our home was beneficial. And I know that, for some people that's backwards. You should get married first, then get a house together and all that good stuff. But for us, that was one less thing to worry about. One less thing. So we already know we have our house, we're safe, we're secure, all that good stuff. So now all we have to worry about is the wedding. So I think for us, and I tell people that all the time when they ask me, well, do you wish you would have done it the other way around? I'm like, absolutely not. I wouldn't have changed it at all.
Yeah, no. Like you said, being like secure and one less financial thing you have to worry about, like, because we know a couple right now, they're in the process of actually having a destination wedding as well as looking for a house. And they're just like, dude, it's so stressful. Like,
it is.
And we always advise people to do one or the other. I mean, I'm probably the more traditional one in the relationship, but listen, for me, as the masculine one in a relationship, I knew that I wanted to make sure I was able to provide a home for who I knew was going to be my wife. You know what I mean? Like, and at some point, obviously, when we move, our next home, we'll purchase together. But for me, I felt like that was my obligation to bring into the relationship, is to have a place that we could call home before I even wifed her up.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, she may not have let me wife her if I ain't had no crib.
Okay, you got to show me that you're gonna go ahead and set
that you're about this life.
Okay.
I do think that it is beneficial. I mean, for us, we lived in Atlanta. I mean, I'm from Atlanta, so so yeah, we lived there. We met there. My wife is originally from here, out in LA, but I mean, they lived in Atlanta for a while, and then she wanted to move back out here. So we initially, when we first started dating, I think I was in a place with like a roommate, and then I ended up getting laid off from my job, and so I moved back home with my mom. And my wife at the time was staying with her father. So one of the things I do like is that we did date. So we didn't just kind of jump into Netflix and chill. We actually went on dates. And that's one of the things. That's why, look, by the end of this, y'all are going to go watch these damn videos, because one of the things that you all kind of talked about in your early dating is that you actually dated. So I was like, yeah, that's good stuff. But we did that. And then we ended up, after we were together a couple years, then we got an apartment together. So it's not something that we rushed. And then she moved out here first and, kind of secured a spot out here. And then I finished out the lease there and moved out here. So now we've been here for 3 years. But I do think it is beneficial because we've had the experience of both. Like, we're in an apartment. We do want to move into a house. But we've been in our same, place since we moved out here, and we started looking for a house. So around the time of the wedding planning, because we gave ourselves a long engagement, I proposed in in December 2016. So we had like a year and some change engagement. So we wanted to make sure that we had time to plan, and we were looking for a house. It was too damn much. It was much. And so we're like, you know what? We're going to have to put this house hunt on hold and move on and go ahead and focus on our wedding. And that's what we did. I'm so glad we did, because it was stressful. It was just too much. And it did, like you all were talking about in terms of like the strain on a relationship, it did cause tension. And did cause tension where I felt like it's like, okay, well, we're getting irritated. And a lot of times, honestly, it wouldn't even be really with each other. It's just circumstances. And then it would just impact each other. So we might be irritated with the realtor, or we might be, but it's
we take it out on each other.
Right. Well, that's the person that you're around the most. They're catching it, and I'm moody. So,
okay. Say something about Scorpio over here.
I'm like, I'm moody, and I'm upfront about it. I'm not going to spring it on you, but so I would be like, look, I'm getting irritated. And then once I get irritated, she's like,
Yeah.
But at least you're communicating.
Right.
It's crazy. Communicating through it all. You might roll your eyes, but you still communicate.
Right. Okay.
You may not like it, but at least I'm telling.
Right. So I think that you're absolutely right. I do wish that more people would consider kind of stabilizing, because even though we're in an apartment, we still had the stability of saying, okay, well, let's, pause the house hunt. Let's wait. Let's get married. Let's, chill for a minute, and then we can circle back to it. But we weren't like trying to find some kind of place together and do all that. It just makes a big difference. I'm like, we know what our bills are, let's focus on this wedding. But one of the reasons why I think that's important is because there's a misconception about the way that lesbians navigate relationships. Some of it is true, but
the U-Haul.
Yes,
exactly. There's that whole U-Haul thing, and the whole is that, and just like kind of rushing and it being very kind of volatile, tumultuous. It's like, it's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like 1 minute you together, 1 minute you're not. And people look at it's like it trips me out. There is some truth to it, but I like countering that. When we tell people, yeah, we were together for X amount of years before, folks are like, what? It surprises people because that we did not U-Haul. Not saying now my relationship before her, I did.
We all learned at some point.
We all have.
Look, but I learned, and I was like, I won't do that again. Right. So I didn't do that. And so with her specifically, once we were getting to know each other and dating, because I knew that it was something I wanted to last, I was like, let me not do the same thing. So even though for her, because she's a trip, so she was just like, look, I'm ready to marry you today. Let's do this, I was like, listen here, boo. No.
Okay.
Our time. So I think it is important to counter that narrative of like, hey, we're just rushing into stuff and it's hasty, and like, no, we are out here actually like planning, and being strategic and being deliberate with how we're approaching our relationship. I think it's important that Mase said, you wanted to have a home, like you wanted to be able to provide that, for this person who you're like, this is gonna be my wife, like this is my life partner. So there are certain things I want to come to the table with. And my wife feels similar. I feel similar. I'm just like, I don't want to ideally, I don't want to like bring you the hot mess. Like, I want you to have the real me. And some of it is a mess.
Okay.
But I don't want to come to you rushing or just a mess. So that's why I was like, I wanted to take time and I wanted to be something deliberate. So I think that's really important.
Absolutely. I think for us, in one of our very first videos, we kind of talked about how we got together and how it worked out. So when we met online, we waited like 3 months. We talked for like 3 months.
3 months, just over the phone.
Yeah, just over the phone. And that was after she put me on a chase. But
you gotta make them chase. You gotta make them.
We ain't gonna talk about that. So once she finally ended up texting me back, we kind of talked via text and phone for like 3 months, and then finally went on our first date after that, which for us, people were like, dude, 2 weeks in, you still ain't went out with this girl? I'm like, nah, dog.
Right.
We just
get to know each other,
what I'm saying?
vibing just to make sure.
And then after like a month or two, they like, dude, she catfishing you, dog. This ain't real. Like, you need to see, get a date, man, because it ain't no way that y'all live in the same city and y'all ain't seen each other yet. And I'm like, dude, it's good, it's good. So when we finally saw each other, 3 months for us felt, like a long time. Because like you said, we know people who like 3 days, girl, I love you.
You are back.
Look, let's move in. So after we started dating, we dated for what, like a year and a half? No, how long? A year before I asked you to be my girlfriend? Yeah, like a year. And then I asked her to be my boo thing or whatever. And then I don't even look this timeline. So Jack. And then it was like 2 years. 2 years and some change.
You asked me to marry.
And I proposed to her. And then we took like a year and some change to plan the wedding. So for us, coming out of previous relationships, that was a long time. We took our time. Not quite some years like y'all, but we took.
But you took your time.
Yeah.
To me, I think that it's important because I'm a very spiritual person, so I do believe in being deliberate. And I felt like there were certain things that I said I wanted. At my relationship that was before, like my last long relationship before this one, was not good. I'll just put it like that. It was not healthy. And so I put out into the universe, like, in my prayers, in my meditation, like I want someone that is for me, and I want it to be more intentional and more deliberate and not rush and not mess it up, honestly. So once I met this person who I was like, hey, I can actually envision myself sharing my life with you, having kids with you and stuff like that, I didn't want to risk like jeopardizing it by rushing and just being all hasty. So I'm like, okay, if I say I'm about this life, like for real, if I say, oh, you know what, I'm willing to wait or this and the third, then I got to be about that life for real. If I say I'm going to take my time. So that was, it was a process. And I mean, for one, like my wife was she was consistent from the jump that like, she was like, look, I'm trying to marry you. Like,
well, you know.
Exactly.
I mean, so she definitely was an example of that, where from the very beginning, she just like, look, I'm all in. I'm in love with you. Like, this is what it is. But even with that, I'm like, okay, well, if that's how you feel, then it'll sustain through us taking our time. Mm-hmm. If it's real, we don't have to rush it. So I think it says a lot to be deliberate. And I think some stuff we just have to learn, and we mature as we go through different relationships. But if this is going to be the person that is your spouse, your life partner, your wife, your husband, whoever, who plays that kind of role in your life, I do feel like you start to kind of look at them differently, and you look at how you approach things with them. And so it's just, I don't do things impulsively with her. It's something where I'm like, look, let me think this through. And so I was very adamant in our relationship about like taking our time. Like we just didn't rush. Like we dated. It wasn't like, oh, well, all we do is hang out at the house. She did actually court me. So I do appreciate that. So I didn't make her chase per se. Maybe a little, but I made her wait. I guess I'll say that. So maybe not so much chase. Like, I mean, she knew I was interested in her and all that, but I did make her wait. And that was something that she wasn't used to. But I'm just like, look, if it's real and it's worth it, then it'll be worth it. Absolutely. And I'm like, look, I'm worth it. So get your mind right.
Get it together, honey. Okay. And I think that was the thing with us too. It was very much so when we decided to be in a relationship, we decided we were going to be in this relationship. We weren't going to do a lot of back and forth. Oh, I'm going to break up with you and we get back together. We're not doing all that. Either we're together or we're not.
Yeah.
And that's it. And there isn't, even though we weren't married then, it wasn't an option. Like, we're going to be together because we know that we're meant to be together. We knew that fairly early on too. But once you establish that, look, I'm too old for this. Okay, we're not gonna do this back and forth game.
That part, right.
I said something to hurt your feelings. No, we're gonna work through this. And for us, we started doing counseling. Within the first 6 months of being together?
Possibly.
Really early on, individually and together, because we both come from, broken relationships and all that. And I feel like you have to heal individually to be better for each other. So
absolutely.
For us, that was a really big thing. And again, in our community, in the shame on going to talk to someone is just...
It's such a stigma.
It's so sad. It really is.
It really is, because it's a great resource. I mean, I'm a little biased because that's my field, but still, I think it's something, I mean, me and my wife definitely talk about is like mental health. And I do think it's important because, of course, it impacts your relationships. And it's important for you to be able to have, open communication. And I think that you have to be in a certain place mentally to be able to communicate with someone effectively, and especially to the degree that it requires when you are establishing a life with someone. Like, you have to communicate with them unlike anybody else.
Yeah.
Have to be the most vulnerable, the most open, the most honest. And it ain't always pretty. Sometimes it's ugly. Sometimes it's, they have to see those parts of yourself that you don't want anybody to see. So it's really important. And I talked about on another episode, so I deal with like depression, and we both dealt with depression before, but like I deal with like chronic depression. And so when I came out here, it was a big change. I mean, my family's in Atlanta. I love my city, that kind of thing. And I moved here for my wife. And I absolutely felt like she was worth it, but it still was a big change. I miss my family. And so I was very depressed. And I saw how it impacted her. And I was like, I can't keep going on like this. I mean, because she's, in a place that she loves and stuff. And she's like, look, I'm in a place I love with the woman I love, but she's unhappy. Right. So I was like, okay, I got to go to therapy. So I ended up going to therapy and all that kind of stuff. And we haven't gone to couples therapy. We were just looking at that, but our insurance want to be on some other stuff. They like, oh, we won't cover it if you don't have kids. I'm like, what? Yeah. So they'll cover individual and family, but not couples. So I'm like, this is BS. So, but because I try to like tap into a lot of resources, I just started looking at different resources, articles, just stuff like that we could read and that we could communicate about, so that we could still, luckily, since I had at least some knowledge of it from both sides, from going to therapy and from like doing counseling and stuff. Mm-hmm. So we just utilizing those techniques in our communication. So, and it makes a big difference because you have to be able to be open. So we read this one thing that was talking about like choosing, our little mantra is like choosing each other daily. So we read that and just like stuck, and we're like, wait a minute. So that was a game changer for our relationship, is that concept of like, I'm choosing you. Like, it's an active thing. I'm not passive. I'm like, we're not passive or like taking this for granted, or like, so you're comfortable, but not like you're relaxed where it's just like, oh, it doesn't matter. People kind of look at their relationship like it's going to keep on going on. It's like a comfort zone type of thing. So like, oh, no matter what's happening, I don't look at it like, even with us being married, I still appreciate that she's here. So I don't look at it like an obligation. So I do look like we have a commitment to each other. Absolutely. But you are choosing to be with me and I'm choosing to be with you. It's not an obligation. If it's not healthy or it's not a fit, then we don't have to be here. So the fact that you're choosing to be here and I'm choosing to be here means a lot. So that thought crosses my mind every day, where it's like, you could be getting on my last nerves, but I'm like, I still choose you. I still, no matter what. Or you could have just said something that hurt my feelings, or that, and that's not very often, because we're very like, we don't play that saying like stuff just to be hurtful. Yeah. But you might have pointed out something about me that I was like, I might not have wanted to.
Right. I didn't want you to
Tap into that.
Okay. Like, why you got to be right though? You know.
Right.
Now I feel a way. Now I feel some kind of way. But even in the midst of that, I still choose you. Like, even though my feelings a little hurt, I got to go lick my wounds, but I still choose you. So I think that it's important that we be very like open about communication. I think folks kind of expect relationships to just, like, it's kind of like set it and forget it. Like it's just going to go on and it's like a routine, but it is something that's you got to commit to it daily. You have to pour into it daily. So that's one of the reasons why I watch you all's channel, because how you engage with each other, even if it's like, okay, she just did something that's irritating, whatever, you still pour into each other daily. So not every now and then. It's been consistent, even just from the glimpses that I've seen, it's consistent that you pour into each other. So you can just be sitting there telling us about what happened. And it's like you all are affirming each other throughout that process. Or, Meg might be like, yeah, I just had to do this, or this happened at work. And Mase is like, yeah, you're affirming in that. And you all do that with one another. And that's not something I see a lot, especially our age range. Right. We're all around like the same age. So I think it's really important. I think that we need, as like Black lesbians, as Black queer folks or whatever, we need to see examples of that, because we don't really have these like big role models to kind of like, how people will say they'll look at like celebrity couples or something and be like, oh, this person's relationship goals. Oh, Michelle and Barack and Will and Jada, we don't have that in that kind of mainstream way. Right. So we really end up in positions where we have to be that from our different outlets. And I think that's something that you all are doing well. So that's what one of the things that stands out to me and that I really try to communicate with my listeners about is like, communicate, be open, be yourself, be vulnerable, and don't be afraid to take your time, stuff like that. I think it's important.
Absolutely. Big facts.
All kinds of facts.
Preach that word. That was a word right there.
The whole sermon.
Okay.
Jinx my money.
Oh, man. You got me.
Gosh.
Yeah.
You got to pay up.
I know.
Look, you gotta get my coins.
Okay.
Run me that coin, honey.
Exactly.
So I was going to ask, so since you all have been together, like for one, do you have anything that's like your mantra or kind of like your code with one? Like our thing is I choose you daily, or like choose each other daily, or I choose you daily, that kind of thing. That's like our relationship mantra. Do you have anything that's similar to that? And also, what types of things do you all just enjoy with one another? And is it anything different? Like, are there things that you have kind of like discovered with your spouse that you didn't do before, that you didn't even try before? Just kind of like the things that are unique to your relationship.
As far as our mantra, when we were going to counseling in one of our sessions, our counselor, we actually kind of stole hers. She said she and her husband, like if they're, especially when they're out or even at home, like they have a code word and it's same team. So it's just a quick reminder, like, hey,
in the heat of the moment,
we're on the same team. We don't need to be fighting each other because ultimately we're trying to reach the same goal. So Megan and I have kind of adopted that. Like, so, it'd be like same team, Megan, same team, Mase. Okay, cool. And then it's like, it's just that, like, so almost instantly it's like, okay, you got to chill. I got to chill.
We're not enemies.
Exactly. And then we've also adopted, came up with a code word, and it's blackout. It's blackout. Yeah. So if we like
somebody took it too far
and you need a minute, like don't say nothing else to me, just say black. And then we know, okay, that's it. Because Megan, I don't know if it's the Scorpio in her. I don't know if it's the only child in her or just because she just mean. She has to have the last word. And it like drives me crazy. So I can say, all right, babe, that's it. We done. Like, let's just
stop. I'll be like, I know we done.
And I'll be like, okay, babe, just stop. And she like, okay, I'm stopping. And I'm like, just stop. Just don't say nothing else. She like, I'm not saying nothing else. Like, she has to have the last word. So like, in her growing and learning to be a better partner and actually stopping, and then me just giving it to her sometimes, like,
she got to have that word. So just be like, you know what? She got it.
God, it's so hard. Oh, it's a struggle. It's so hard. Like, and she can even recognize it as hard because it's like, why you got to just say?
Because I'm not used to, being the only child. I'm not used to having to really communicate with anyone else in the house. They'd be like, okay, Mom, whatever, it's whatever. But now I actually have to work with someone.
Right. You didn't have like basically a peer or like a counterpart to have to do that. Yeah.
At all. So now it's like, oh, wait, I really have to think about what I'm saying. Take a step back. And it takes some energy and a lot of thought. And
self-control.
God's still working with me. And he is able.
It's a work in progress. Like, it's one of those things where it's a journey, not a destination. So it definitely, I think it's good that you all have like the same team and Blackout, because for one, you have boundaries, because we are still individuals, because people get that mindset that like, oh, once you are in a relationship or you're married, you are one, but you're still two whole people. It's not like you're halves. You're not two halves coming together. I don't like that idea, because I'm like, no, you are complete by yourself too. Right. But now you complement each other. Right. So that's important to have that, to be like, hey, I'm gonna have to say Blackout because you crossed the line with me, something that's individual. But part of it too is that it forces us, when you're in such close quarters with somebody so much, when you spend so much time with someone, you're so intimate with someone, it does require us to look at ourselves differently. Because now, because you spend so much time with that person, you start to see yourself through their eyes too. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's wonderful. And sometimes it kind of gives you more insight into yourself in terms of like, oh, this is why this person fell in love with me. And you may learn things new things to love about yourself. But sometimes it's hard. So you learn like how it impacts the other person. Like, I know that I'm moody. I've always known that, but I see how it impacts this person who I'm closest to and who, engages with me regularly. Or with my wife, I tell her all the time, I'm like, your attention span, like, she just be all over the place. Gemini, all over.
Look, that's all day.
And I mean, and the thing is, not malicious. Like, it just happens. Like, it's not like she's like, you know what, I'm gonna ignore you. It's just her mind be gone. She done went to 4 other topics, while we on the same topic. She gone. But we've had to see through each other's eyes, like how those things impact each other. And so it can be hard where it's like, dang, I don't want to have to deal with this. But, you're becoming better for yourself and with this other person. Absolutely. And it does make a difference, I think, because I've seen in our communication how it's improved. And it's one of those things where the more that you do that, the less you have to have those blackout moments. So you will start the process before it even come out your mouth. So you don't even have to get through. So I was just telling my cousin and his fiance, they've been together for they just celebrated their 5-year anniversary. And they're a little younger than us. They're like 24 and 26. So, and for that age I'm like, okay, y'all, been in there. But they do that thing where like they might get into it and then they will come back to each other after the fact and talk about it, which is great. But because I'm like, a lot of folks older than y'all not even doing that. But I was telling them, when you get to your next level of communication, you start to process that before you even say it, because you're looking at this person like, this is who this is to me. So I gave them the example of when we were just in Atlanta, because I had to go to Atlanta for my grandmother's funeral. So my wife came with me. She left before I left. So when she left, we were staying at my father-in-law's house. And so we had stuff there. We had our clothes, we had food and stuff. So she had an early morning flight to come back to LA. And so I was there. I was sick. So I'm sick. I'm grieving, going through all this stuff. And there was some stuff that she left behind. And we have, this is like one of our little things where it's like maybe cleaning up after her. We do actually clean up after each other in certain ways. But in this moment, there was like some stuff she left behind. And I'm like, dang, now I'm left to do all this cleanup. I'm not feeling good, whatever. So I started to text her like, dang, girl, you left all this stuff. I'm typing, y'all. I'm talking, look, just swiping away.
Yeah.
And then I stopped before I even finished writing the message. And I was just like, okay, Davia, what good is this going to do? What's going to come from this? So I started going through this whole process in my mind of like, what response am I expecting a certain response from her? She's already on a plane. So what can she do? Am I still up anyway, or am I going to be petty and leave the mess? Like, I'm not about to leave my father-in-law's house a mess when he let us, stay there with him not there. So I started doing that whole process instead of me shooting off that text real quick, and then after the fact being like, you know what, babe, I should not have, said such a
being proactive instead
of reactive. Exactly. So I don't believe in being reactive. So it's like getting to that next level of communication where you do that before instead of having to go back and do it after. It's not terrible to do it after, and it's good that you're doing it at all. But I noticed that shift in terms, like, once I'm looking at this person like, this is my wife, or it happened before we got married, but I was like, I knew I was going to marry her. So I'm like, this is going to be my wife. This is going to be the mother of my children. Like, let me just, pause. You remember who the person is to me. And is this necessary? So I stopped and I'm like, you know what? It don't even matter. I'm going to clean it up anyway. She's already gone to do so. It don't matter. Just clean it up. Just delete. Because I was like, there's stuff she does for you, blah, blah, whatever. So I just deleted the text and didn't even mention it. And just went ahead and, took care of it. And it came up in conversation later, but it wasn't in the same energy. I wasn't like, oh, you left. I was just like, oh, I was talking to them about that and whatever. So it wasn't making me feel some kind of way anymore. But I think that was important I'm glad we've gotten to that next level of communication where it's like, I stop in my tracks because I look at her and I'm like, that's the woman I love. That's my wife. Like, I see all of that. So, and it's just kind of gotten stronger since we've gotten married where I'm like, wait, that's my wife. So let me kind of like, let me just pause and be more deliberate kind of in how I engage with her. It's like, is it really necessary to say this to your wife?
That is so good.
It helps you to weigh it, because sometimes it is necessary to say, like, if it's something that hurts your feelings or your boundaries or whatever, sometimes we do, but to filter it through that process. And it's like, okay, me saying something in that moment, it wasn't going to solve anything. It's like, it's whatever life's going to go on. But if it's something that really impacted me in a major way or something, then we do need to communicate about it. So, you kind of have to filter through and see what's important and what's not, as opposed to just kind of, latching on to everything. And now we having little petty, not even fights, but like, because we don't really fight or argue, but we're just having like petty disagreements and conflict when it can be avoided.
Absolutely. Jinx my money.
She getting all the money today.
I'm spending all these monies, girl. I'm not going to have to go to work tomorrow.
Look,
Come on, somebody.
Time I get her in the videos, that's what it is.
No, boo.
Tell her, Meg, you have to tell Mase, God is a provider. I don't have to go to work tomorrow. Money, I don't have to go to work tomorrow.
Okay. Bless it.
It's like I'm not with it.
She's never with it. This frugal thing is never with giving up any money.
Man,
I feel Mase. I feel Mase because I'm the more. Yeah, my wife is like, child, I'm trying to ball out on you. I'm like, babe, I need you to relax.
Okay. So, you got food at home.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Right. So I feel you because that's me. I'm like, look, let's be practical. I'm the more practical person. My wife is like, I want to spoil you. What you want? I'm like, look, I don't need that, babe. I don't need it. She's like, yes, you do.
Let's just get it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, no. I'm thinking about, Lord God, what if something happened? Matter of fact, we just had to get a new hot water tank weekends ago.
Yeah.
And I was like,
thank God we didn't do such and such.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's real because
be ready.
When I was looking at us putting the house search on hold, I'm glad we did because you got to have like your deposit and your earnest money and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then we had all stuff pop up, like we needed to get a new bed, we needed to get a new fridge, we had to you just got a new couch. So these are major purchases. And I'm like, well, I'm glad we did because we would not have had the money to, get this stuff. And these are things that we need. We need a bed, a comfortable bed to sleep on. We can't be working all day and come into a, terrible bed, old bed.
Yeah.
I'm like, because that fridge was done. And she said, I've done my job. My work here is done.
Okay. I am retired. This is
right. It's like, well done. God was like, well done. Like, you good.
Good and faithful servant.
Absolutely.
It's been good and very good. Time to go. Okay. So that fridge was out the door. So we had to make those major purchases, but I'm like, hey, and even with my grandmother passing, we had to take that trip to Atlanta last minute. Mm-hmm. So, we did the Delta bereavement fair stuff, but even still, it's a cross-country flight and it's last minute. So it's like we would not have had those funds, if we just spending them on whatever, we would not have had that money for both of us. Cause it's like, okay, well, I want my wife to be there with me, but if we got to like, well, you can't take this trip or you got this other trip planned, you got to cancel it so we can take, we don't have to worry about that. So it is good to have that stability and that security. So you're not stressing over every dollar.
Absolutely. Amen.
No.
See, baby?
Don't get her.
It's a balance. It's a balance. You do have to have things that you enjoy. You have to have things. Because we got our little mantras. One of our things is we have to have something to look forward to, because that stops us from getting into a rut in our relationship. So we're like something, whether it's a trip, it's a date, it's whatever. We need to have something that we're looking forward to. We don't want to feel like we've done everything or like, dang, we don't do nothing no more. We don't go out no more. We don't, So even if it's just, hey, let's go, we about to go sit and be cute and get some little froyo. Whatever it is, have something.
Yogurt?
Come on. The yogurt be coming through.
I'm about to cry.
And I you know what? I think Mase and I have kind of adopted that too since we've been married, making sure we're still going on dates. Like Tuesday, if we're off work, going to the movies is our thing now.
$5.
Because it's $5.
We went to a lot of, we had got Movie Pass. So we would go to the movies all the time. We actually haven't been because we got a dog and Lord knows she take up all our little time and energy.
Mm-hmm. I know, y'all.
So we got a little rescue and well, she's not little, but we got a dog for the so yeah, that has kind of cut into some of our time, but we still make sure that we like have our dates. We just today is what, Saturday? So Thursday night, we did a date night. We went to, because Michelle Obama is on her book tour. So we like that. Oh, it was amazing.
Oh my God. Tracy Ellis Ross was the host. Right?
Yes.
Gosh.
It's hilarious. I already love her. So she's just funny for no reason. I'm like, why are you so damn funny? Okay. So she's hilarious. Michelle Obama is hilarious, which I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that I would laugh as much as honestly. Not like I think she's boring, but I'm thinking about it like it's Michelle Obama. This is serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Listen, Michelle from Chi-Town is hilarious.
Yeah. Did she curse by any chance? I just want to know.
I don't remember her cursing.
Okay.
I don't remember her cursing, but she did keep it real. Like she was talking about when she was growing up and she was talking about getting in fights and stuff. It was funny. I was like, okay, Michelle. So it was cool to get that kind of insight into just like her as a person, her life, her parents, her brother, her relationship with Barack, all that kind of stuff. So it was really, really cool. And even to hear her tell the story of like meeting Barack and her impression and stuff it was cool to see it on that level because they talk about it in public, but to see her have that, how like if you all are talking about your wife and you're like, look, when I met her, it's kind of that nostalgia and that like, that was for me. So it's like that kind of thing. But she was like, he walking out. I was like, okay. And I'm just like, really, Michelle? You had that moment?
Yes, okay. Yeah. She's like, okay, I see.
I know she was like, first she heard his voice. She was like, she said, I met him on paper first. I thought he was going to be like a nerd with a pocket protector and like a little short and skinny. And so she said, she talked to him on the phone. So she said, y'all, first I heard that voice. Yeah. Like, hello. And she was like, oh, well, hello. So she was like, I heard that voice. And then, she said he walked into my office and she was like, he was late. So she was like, but he walked into my office and I was like, oh, he's cute. But she was like, I had to be a serious lawyer. I didn't want to show him that. Plus he was late. So I couldn't let him know that I thought he was cute. So she just having those like real reactions of being like, yeah, I saw him. I was like, like, okay, and just like, I felt like we got to see her, just her regular self. And it is consistent though. It's not like she's different, but it's just kind of get more intimate. And so yeah, I definitely want to get the book, but it was great. And I was like, this was a good little date night, thing to do. And she said some of the same stuff that we talk about in terms of like relationships and your balance and all that type of stuff. So I thought that was really cool. Yeah. So that's my promo because it was nice. But yeah, it is important to have like those date nights and, our things, we're like, look, we need to have them in, even with us having the little terror, the little baby. We still, want to make sure we have that time with each other. So, and we can't just sit in the house all the time. So, and it's cool too, but it's like, your home, make your home a space where you can really relax and be comfortable and all that. But get out, because part of what made me fall in love with her was being able to see different things through her eyes. So go through different experiences, travel, that kind of stuff, and see it through her eyes. Because you get to know a person, you live with them, you travel with them.
Yes.
Whew, you get to know.
Don't you learn so much, especially when you travel? Lord have mercy. So it's so funny, like even with, like, kind of similar to the whole wedding planning process. Like, I guess when I was younger, growing up, like, okay, I used to call myself a stud. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a stud, and my wife, she gonna be super feminine, and she gonna have to do everything, man. I'm gonna just kind of make money or whatever. Like now, especially like when we travel, I'm like, okay, babe, give me the passport, give me the tickets. I'll take, like, doing all the stuff when I was, when I was growing up, I thought like the quote unquote feminine wife would do. And now I find myself like, let me take this and be responsible for this.
Yeah.
Let me, and it's so fun. And
I let her.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes. She does not put up any kind of fight. She's like, oh, you
other's strengths.
Perfect.
You have to play to each other's strengths. Like, that's something I've learned over the course of this relationship. I'm very much a independent, and my wife talks stuff about me all the time, because I'm very like, I can do it all myself. I'm just, that's my mindset. I'm the oldest child and the grandchild, and I'm used to like get it done. Like, if I want it done, I want it done on my time. So I got to do it myself, because I'm not expecting everybody else to do it on my time. So I'm like, I'll just do it. So I'm used to that. But she's like, I've learned, like, you have to play to the strengths of the relationship, and I have to step back, and I can't do everything. Some stuff I need to let her do, especially if she's better at it. Then for one, I need to accept that she's better at it, because me being like the straight A little perfectionist, that was hard initially to be like, oh dang, she actually better at this than I am.
How is that possible?
Pause, flag on the play.
Right, okay.
But once I release that ego, because that's ego, and ego don't do you no good. I'm like, I'm not about to let my ego cost me my wife. So that's going to be a no.
Okay.
So like, put that ego aside and just look at it like, okay, what are you better at? If you're better at this, then you got it. Just let her, take the lead on that. And if I'm better at it, then I'll have it. And we navigate it more so like that. Because you're trying to do everything. But then too, I think as we get older, we get a better understanding of how stuff really plays out. So we can have this very rigid view of like a femme and a stud. This is how it goes, but we grown, what I mean? Like,
period. Yes.
Now, we're about to, my wife is masculine presenting, but that's my woman. So I'm about to treat her like my woman. That's how we engage. And so I'm like, I'm not about to say, well, I can't do this, that, and the third because you masculine presenting. I just got her like this little flower and a teddy bear. And I'm like, I'm not about to, so I can't do this because you my damn woman. So here go your flowers, boo. Like,
yes.
I think I bought Mase some flowers for the first time, like a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, even though you're my wubby, I still love you and you deserve flowers too.
And it shocked me. Like, I walked in my room and I was like, oh, damn. I was like, these flowers, and they for me? I was like, oh, shoot. Like, it was super sweet. Like, what I've ever thought, like,
I would bring you flowers.
Not even that you would do it, but like, I would enjoy getting them. Like, no, but when I got them, I was like, oh, this is super dope. Like, it's only been a handful of times where I've gotten flowers. Like, so it was definitely dope. It was different. I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, yo, this is cool. Because it's
an adjustment, but we have to like affirm one another. Because that's my thing too. I'm like, okay, we are similar in terms of we both kind of have that mindset of like, I want to provide and all that kind of stuff. And it's one of those things where it is very, very, it's important to both of us. But I've taken a step back because I'm like, I know it's how important it is to her to, be in the role. But I'm like, you can do that. But I'm not about to, and it could just be my stubbornness, but I'm like, I'm not about to give up doing certain things for you in the midst of that. So that's how you want to be the, provider and all kinds of stuff. I mean, we both working and everything, but it's like, there's certain things you want to provide. Fine. But please understand, like, I'm still going to take you out. I'm still going to do certain, that's still going to happen. And those things don't have to be in conflict with one another. So I think as you get into grow in your relationship, you start to see how those roles really look, because we can have this idea of like very strict roles. and even play them. I mean, in previous relationships, I was very much the provider, regardless of kind of the presentation of the other person I was with, whether they were feminine or masculine. I've always had kind of that masculine energy. So I was the one who was like, I'm gonna take care of my woman. Like, I mean, that like, I make sure you straight. So I'm trying to do all the things. I'm trying to cook. I'm trying to clean. I'm trying to, bring home the money, all this kind of stuff. And, but as you grow into your relationship, especially that's like your marriage and you're more mature, then you start to see how it really plays out and like what those roles really look like. And some stuff may not look how you thought it would, but if it works, then it works.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah, that is. Ooh.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
No, I think since we've gotten married too, though, the whole role situation, it gets blurred sometimes. Sometimes Mase is gonna wash dishes, which she hates. And sometimes I'm going to take the trash out because she's got to get to work. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where we do have kind of these defined roles in our minds of, okay, this is the expectation. But in reality, it's just got to get done.
Exactly.
So,
right. Yeah. It's putting some of those strict things aside just for the overall good of the relationship. Like, okay, so because you think this person's supposed to take the trash out, you just not going to take it out? Like, overflow, just going to sit in the house and overflow and sink? Like, come on now. So it's like we have to navigate this in a real life way. I'm like, that's cute or whatever, but in our real lives, this trash got to go. So so I think like people can have this idea of this very kind of perfect relationship, but I think if we're open, what perfect looks like, and I mean, I think about like perfect in terms of a perfect fit because we're not perfect people, but something that fit, we have to kind of be receptive to. It may not look exactly how we thought it would look, and it may require some stuff from us that we didn't think. We may have to kind of shift and adjust, and step back in some ways that we really didn't think that we had to. But it's compromising for that relationship so that it can work, as opposed to just being like, well, this is what it is. Right. And I mean, everybody is entitled to their boundaries. So you do, I feel like we do all have a right to have certain things where we're like, look, I'm not accepting this. That's fine. But know where your flexibility is so that you can, kind of both bring that to the table.
Absolutely. I think one of the other biggest ways it came out, at least for me, like before I was with Megan, like I was like hell bent on never getting. I was like, okay, my wife, she's gonna have kids because she's the family. And something happened to a really close friend of mine. She had an issue with her and her ex-wife and not being able to get custody of the they had together. They weren't legally married. That kind of helped in the shift of my mindset in terms of, actually carrying. But like in being with Megan, I was like, yo, that would be dope if we both had one. And that was my first time ever wanting to carry a kid. Yeah. Like, and it was like, wait a minute, hold on. And but
part of that might be because of the relationship, so like our desires kind of shift too. It's like when we get to a place of more stability, because I mean, not saying you weren't stable by yourself, but like it's a different kind of stability in a relationship to have that emotional kind of stability with someone. It does kind of impact your desires, because you could be like, oh, I got this, that, and the third together on my own. But when you feel secure with someone, the stuff that you kind of starts to desire to do with them and all that, you feel more comfortable kind of being more vulnerable with them.
Right.
Oh, Phil, you're so vulnerable.
No, well, I cannot.
Look, see, this is why you don't tell all your secrets.
Doing her like that.
Okay. I'm
life
all the way around. And she about to have
life all day.
Yeah, she about to have two in a minute. Now, how about that?
I cannot.
Are you playing?
So I do see that we are coming close on our time. Before we, I guess as our way of wrapping up, I do want to give you all a chance to plug your YouTube channel, your social media, and if there was anything else that you wanted to like share with the listeners before we wrap up. But definitely plug that channel. I'll also include links to stuff when I drop the episode. But go ahead and tell good people where they can find you.
Okay, on YouTube, we are Inside the Life of M&amp, one word. On Instagram, we are also Inside the Life of M&amp. And my personal page on Instagram is elite_kinks.
And mine is Favored by God, Favor, FAVORD. And we are starting a wedding series, actually, documenting our wedding because we got so many questions about how to plan, how much it costs. So we are
having a candid conversation, getting married with the Mase.
Nice.
Becoming, that will be dropping on our YouTube channel very, very soon.
But we're so appreciative and so thankful for you having us.
Absolutely.
It's been so fun.
I know, this is cool. Thank you for popping our podcast, Cherry.
Yay.
Yay. So yeah, I have to have y'all on. I think it would be a good idea to have you all back on, like just to once you get into the wedding series, because that would be dope to have some, because that's one of the things when we were looking for our wedding stuff, because we said we need to do like a YouTube on our how we did the destination wedding, which we'll get to at some point. Mm-hmm. But because we were looking and we didn't see a lot of examples, and because we are a lesbian couple, that may present its own challenges in terms of, can you get married in certain places, and will you face certain discrimination? So we it's good to put that out there, because we were searching when we were planning our wedding, and we saw the ceremonies, but we couldn't find a lot of like lesbian couples talking about the actual process.
Oh wow, okay, that would definitely be good. Absolutely.
So it'll be good for you all to do that too, so that, because I'm like, I wish we had, been able to look at a couple and just they say, okay, hey, here's the breakdown, because we did not have that, so we were winging it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, we're gonna definitely get candid with that, give details about vendors and all that good stuff. So
the money. That's what people really want to know. How much does that cost? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what people want to know. So
and people act kind of funny about talking about the money too. And we were looking like, how much though, like this, because we had a budget, so we're trying to do some searching. We're like, but how much did it cost? And nobody would say. So we're just like, okay.
We got receipts. Okay, like we letting you know, and that was another reason why we want to do it too, because we saw a few videos and it's like, oh, that is beautiful, but dude, how much did that cost?
Can we afford that?
Let me know if I'm being unrealistic with my my hopes, my dreams, and aspirations.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
and we were.
Yeah. Okay. So
hello.
Okay. Hello. Let's be honest. So yeah, we're definitely gonna drop that in hopes that it'll help some people out or whatever.
Nice. Well, I definitely appreciate you all being willing to come on. I'm going to have to try to peer pressure you to come on again at some point.
No pressure.
More than happy to do it again.
I think it'll be awesome. And I got to have you all on with my wife too, because Lord knows.
For sure. We're going to tag team y'all. I'm ready.
That'll be a nice episode, because people really do like hearing from couples. And when I did the episode with her, it's one of our most listened to episodes.
Oh, nice.
It's just funny to me, because I'm like, the first beginning, all I'm doing is laughing because she's silly as hell. So
that's favorite.
Yeah. So I think that would be really cool. But I'll make sure I include all y'all's information for my BRQ listeners. Make sure that you check them out. Yeah, I'm subscribed, so I'm in there.
Thank you, Sugar, and thank you to your listeners as well.
Black Radical Queer Podcast is all about intersectionality and Black queer folks sharing our stories on our own terms. We navigate an array of identities, and BRQ is an outlet where we can see the spectrum of those identities reflected, explored, and celebrated. Black Radical Queer is a ManeHustle Media podcast hosted by Javia Nicole, produced and edited by Charmaine Johnson. Music is by Publicity. You can find us on social media by looking up Black Rad Queer. It's BLK RAD QWR. We are on Facebook as well as Instagram and Twitter. Same handle regardless, at Black Rad Queer. BLK RAD QWR. We also have a Facebook discussion group that's just called BRQ Discussion Group. And you can also listen wherever you get your podcasts. So we're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, Google Play, all those types of things. And we have, our home base that's on Libsyn, so you can listen on there as well. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Make sure you come on back around next week to see what we have for you. And all right, y'all, I'm out. ManeHustle Media. Turn your side hustle into your main hustle.